Yeah, I get away with some, and then I don't get away with others. So there's no way to really figure out what it really wants.
You mean
But
like
it is
the
what it is.
algorithm? Like even
Yeah, like the Mad Dog and stuff like that. Sometimes it thinks, oh, that's funny. Look, they're drinking. Other times, like, no, you've gone against our community standards. I'm like, seriously? I see people do shots all the time. Now, all of a sudden, it's inappropriate. Okay.
yeah, I could do a water shot.
What you got on your shirt there, Chris? Hey, Kristen.
Uh-huh.
In candles it is.
Yep.
Give it a few minutes for people to populate. While we're waiting, we can go ahead and do the intro. Kevin, there's Kevin joining in, watching The Rocketeer again. Is that Bill Campbell? Rocketeer? I think I saw that at least once. So welcome to the Three of You Mirror, your weekly dose of nostalgia of the highest order, where the three of us come together with three seemingly random topics that harken back. Yeah, I said harken. Back to the 70s, the 80s, maybe even the 90s. Three topics that on the face of things, it looks like nothing could possibly connect those topics. And yet, at the end of our show, and only at the end of our show, we will ask for a reveal. We'll say, does anybody, whether it's the three hosts or our live studio audience hosts, do you guys know what the connection is? And today's host is me. And today's topics, although I figured out the toppings, shout out to Kristen Rhodes, who emailed me with an amazing connection, which inspired me to come up with the three topics I have today. And we'll see if anybody can get it at the end. Hellos to Kristen, to Kevin, to Hellraiser, to PM, Brian, Robert, Wirehead. Every week we have what we call a virtually live studio audience. And if you want to join in and see your name sprawled across the top of our screens, come in. We usually start every Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So my name is John Katrides. I'm today's host. You may follow me on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube as Gen X Jono. And I'm joined by two friends. Chris?
I'm Chris Clues, better known as Chris Clues, keynote speaker and author. I focus on the life and work lessons that we can learn from 80s pop culture. And I speak to a lot of different organizations, and you can find my books on Amazon and in a bookstore near you.
And I am Rochelle Oblak, often known as Gen X Shell online. And you can find me on all the typical social media channels. Take a minute and look me up if you haven't already.
And this, as always, is the Three of You Mirror. So today's topics, I saw Life is already asking about it, and I see there's already guesses. Knock it off. It's too early.
You know what, though? I love when they say that the connection is Blues Brothers and Beaches, and what was the other one? Calvin Klein. And that goes to show
my
how many
picture is fuzzy.
Tom Petty.
I do have a storm going on here. It's really storming badly, so if my picture goes fuzzy, not much I can do about it. That said, let's jump right in.
Wait, John, on that note, if I were to black out for any reason, we are under a severe thunderstorm watch as well. So if you see lightning in the background, or if I just suddenly leave, well, that's the reason.
Different from blacking out in high school, of course.
Yeah, very different.
Well, we will, if that happens, we will get back to everyone and resume our regularly scheduled program already in progress at a later point in time. All right, today's topics. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Topic number one, if someone wants to type these in, is Amityville horror. Ooh. Going all the way back to early 70s, one of the earliest horror movies I ever watched as a kid. Had no business seeing it, but I even rewatched it last night to refresh my memory, and it kind of holds up. So Amityville Horror, Teen Wolf 2, and Kung Fu.
Teen Wolf 2?
Those are the...
All right.
Teen Wolf 2. And we'll get to it because I'm pretty sure nobody's seen it. This movie did horrifically bad at the box office. You saw it, Shell?
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
I saw it last night. Again, I was doing my research, but there is a reason to my madness, and we'll see as we go along. But we can start with the Amityville Horror. You guys seen it?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I if anybody knows me, I am a huge horror fanatic. I love horror movies, partly because I was subjected to them very early in my life. I watched them from, I don't know, 8 years old on, at least. And what year did Amityville Horror come out? The original?
79.
79, I think.
Okay, probably saw it in reruns in about 81, 82. Who knows? I probably was 8, 9, something like that. Yeah, I've seen it and seen every iteration they made after that, because there were a couple iterations that they made after that. There was a modern remake, and then there was, I think, Amityville 1, 2, maybe 3.
Well, there was a remake with fan favorite, help me, the Mint Mobile dude.
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds. Yeah.
Ryan
Reynolds.
Yeah.
What'd you say? Ryan Reynolds. Yeah. There was also a bunch of documentaries. So this was based on a true story. Yeah. So there was a house in Amityville, Long Island, New York, and there were 6 murders there. A guy, I can't remember his name, Ronald DeFeo Jr.
Yeah.
Went in with the shotgun and killed all 6 of his family members.
Yeah.
And the house did get bought. And this guy, George, and his family did move in, and they did move out within 28 days. All of that is true. What happened or didn't happen was the source of documentaries and a whole bunch of things after the fact. But it was based on a true story.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things we talk about, the great movies, sometimes being able to take something, well, I shouldn't say something that's not scary, but because sharks can be scary, but taking something you don't typically look as scary, a house, and they filmed it in a way that it just scared you looking at it. Now, every time I drive by a house when I'm up north visiting my family, I drive by a house like that with those kind of windows, I get creeped out. And I could never live in a house with those kind of windows. And that's
so they changed the windows. The new owners specifically changed the windows primarily to get people from stopping and taking pictures underneath them. But the pictures made a face. If you look, they did a great job making the house look evil. The scene with the priest and the flies stuck in my mind forever. The house saying "get out" before Elaine ever said "get out." It was scary as hell to me.
That well in the basement, like I don't know what it was like for some people growing up, but I know here in Pennsylvania, like there were lots of older houses. Like, if you live in a more modern city and a lot of the houses are new, they're either patio homes or they have a new modern basement. But a lot of the houses built around here, they had that like stone and cement, very low ceiling kind of basements, and there were often wells, cisterns, things that were built into the basements. And let me tell you something, there are some creepy AF basements that I have been to in my life where you just you run down the stairs and you're like, oh my god, I'm running back up, and you have no idea why, because something is down there, whether it be spiders or an evil spirit. But that well in the basement, that's what got me.
Yeah, I mean, it's I meant to say with the house, it's kind of like the showers with Psycho. Like, you take something that shouldn't really be scary and you make it scary just without anything that happened inside, before you know anything inside. And now I think too, like those horror movies, we've talked about them here, a lot. The late 70s through the 80s, the slasher films, but then also the ones that are based in some fact, like The Exorcist. My grandfather was a reverend. This apple fell really far from the tree, but I remember him going to see The Exorcist, and I was too young to see it at the time. But later on, talking to him, he said that movie concerned him because they clearly did their research on everything. And I don't know, I guess the Conjuring movies are kind of like that. Like, they're a lot of fun, and they scare the hell out of me still too. And they kind of remind me of the Amityville ones a little bit.
Yeah, they do. They have that truth factor too.
Truth,
that
The truth, yeah.
The truth was these were based on a true story, you know, and you're like, okay, yeah, I know there was some creepy, you know, just the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was also a story loosely based on Ed Gaines, you know, or Gein,
Ed Gein.
whatever, Gein, yeah, whatever his name was. And, you know, that based on a true story and then it's made into a movie, what made it even scarier. And I think that's what I loved about Amityville.
It got me because I remember as a kid, so I lived in New York State, and this was in Amityville, New York, which is Long Island, nowhere near me. But the fact that as a little kid, I couldn't quite grasp geography. I was 8, 9 years old. It could have been the house next door for all I knew. It was enough that it scared me to pieces. And I was a good Greek Orthodox church-going boy. I believe there's nothing stronger than the power of God and priests and all this good stuff. And the priest was sent out on his haunches. The nun was pushed away. The evil couldn't have even been. It's like even The Exorcist. That was frightening. You're like, wow, even God can't protect you. That was enough for me. I was done.
I'm out of here.
Wasn't it Eddie Murphy? Did Eddie Murphy have a comedy skit about Amityville Horror? And it said, "Get."
Oh, I don't know that one.
He did a whole skit on like when they say "get out." Wasn't it? It wasn't him. Who was it?
No, yeah, he did. It was on Saturday Night Live. They actually just reiterated that when they did like the 50th anniversary special or whatever. And it was Elaine. What's her name? Elaine.
Bennis. Not Elaine
No,
Bennis.
no.
Julie Louis-Dreyfus.
Yeah. No. The longer-haired 70s. I can't think of her name at the moment. One of the original players back in the day. And she was tied to a bed, and he came in and he tried to, you know, do a thing with her. It was hilarious, actually.
Get out.
Now, the other thing is James Brolin played the guy in this. Margot Kidder, Lois Lane fame, played the wife. And what's funny is that Margot Kidder played this. Christopher Reeve was actually up for the part that James Brolin got. So you almost got to see Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder reunited in a horror movie. So that's kind of cool. The other thing is watching James Brolin's performance in this kind of foreshadowed The Shining. He had that whole starting to go nuts, starting to lose his mind, the guy that's supposed to protect, because just like that, it's he that would be the threat to his family. Just like the original guy was. It just, this thing foreshadowed The Shining. This thing foreshadowed Poltergeist. So many movies, picked up little pieces of this.
Yeah. It had a creepy factor.
Yeah.
Like you said, you just had to scan by that house with those 2 windows, those half moon windows at the top. And you were like, that's it. I'm out. If I ever saw that house, I'm running or taking a photo in front of it, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, these were movies that, like, the grittiness of them. I think we talk a lot here also about special effects and real effects and practical effects. And when you have movies like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Salem's Lot, Amityville Horror, they have a realness to them. One, because as Shell mentioned, some of them are loosely based on true stories, but also there was only so much they could do with the special effects were very real. It was like these real practical effects. They didn't, I like the idea of like the slashers are cool and everything, but what really scares me are movies like The Strangers, which kind of was like a throwback to these Amityville horror movies where they're scaring you with noises and images and faces and stuff that, like, it's not somebody's head getting chopped off and that's the scare. The scare is like is somebody down the hallway there just staring, or like Michael Myers when he came up from the bed and he just like sat up and looked over. Like, that's freaky as hell, man, and that scares me more than like seeing a bunch of people getting chopped up.
It's the heebie-jeebies.
Here's the thing that was different. Here's the thing that was different about this one. Aside from the throwback at the beginning to Ronald DeFeo killing his 6 family members, not a single death in this movie. It's a horror movie where, aside from the first 3-minute setup of what haunts this house, nobody dies. And the protagonists do exactly what we're always screaming to the movie to do. Why are you still there? Pack up your shit and get out. Yeah. And within 28 days of signing on the dotted line and giving away their life savings, they are out.
Listen, that's the whole like premise of so many like TikTok videos I've seen. Like, why are you like? That's why they made those remakes too of like Scary Movie and stuff. The funny remakes. Yeah. Why are you investigating the noise? Literally, clearly, so like there's 7 people dead. Get the fuck out of the house. Someone in the comments said, yeah, it wasn't Eddie Murphy. It was Richard Pryor that did.
The Get Out.
Pryor, yes. Somebody said it. It scrolled on by, but yeah, it was definitely Richard Pryor that did that.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I love those movies. Those are the movies that I like. The ones that, Alfred Hitchcock was famous for being able to scare you without any kind of gore. Like he used the sounds and the noises and, it's the weird stuff. Even Stanley Kubrick did it in The Shining with the little twins that were just standing in the hallway.
Yeah. Yeah. The blood elevator.
I just glitched for a minute, and the storm's really getting heavy, so we'll see how we do.
This might be why you're talking about Amityville. It's
it's yeah. But I mean, I think so. That's cool. I'm going to call last call on Amityville because we got to keep this one tight today. 9:15. Anything else right now?
Oh, I could just talk forever about scary movies. We just need to. I'm going to make this.
Well, here's the question:
topic. Yeah.
If nobody died, really, aside from just eerie feelings and some. What would you do if a house you just spent all your money on is doing what it did? Would you have moved out, even if it meant financial ruin? What would you do?
Yes. I get out. Yeah.
Well, but see, like I've watched enough scary movies that I don't really buy into all of that most of the time. So I mean, and
you'd end up dead.
I've never experienced it, and so therefore, if I did, though, I'd be like, listen. I once saw a snake climbing like up my fence, like up, and I was like, that's it. We need to sell the house. Like, so I would have sold the house for a snake. So,
Okay.
Kevin says, I'd burn it down for the insurance money. Wirehead says, bye, Felicia. Vale says, yes, out I am. All right. That's the consensus. It looks like they would get out, and I would too. Although I like burning down the house for the money. That I hadn't thought of.
Yeah.
All right. Topic number 2 brings us into the 80s. A movie so much like so many movies back in the 80s, right? That followed an exact formula. Teen Wolf 2.
Jason Bateman, correct?
Jason Bateman, his first movie.
Was that his first movie? I didn't realize.
That was his first theatrical sighting.
Okay. I didn't.
John was just finishing up on the scary movies. Saying that talking about scary, nothing is more scary than seeing a woman in a man's life, seeing the women in a man's life sitting together in the living room watching Steel Magnolias for the millionth time.
Or Beaches, just saying.
Or Beaches, just saying.
Just saying.
Right, Teen Wolf 2. Jason Bateman. The only other person that is of any relevance really is the dad from Addams Family. What the hell is his name on the show? Morticia's husband plays the dean of the college that Jason Bateman's in. Otherwise, it's a bunch of people that had like the chance of a lifetime to appear in a movie that went nowhere.
I know I must have been, what year did it come out?
1986, 87?
87, I think.
Okay. Listen, I would have been like 13 years old. I was at prime age where like I might have seen Teen Wolf 1 and was fascinated by it. And I was at that goofy, awkward teenage stage. And for whatever reason, at that stage in my life, I actually liked Teen Wolf 2, which is how I remembered that it was Jason Bateman. Like, I actually liked it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember much about it, but...
whether it was Teen Wolf, there were so many movies like this, and they don't have them today anymore. They followed a formula that was so perfect that here's the main character, here's the tough thing that happens to him, here's the bully that gets the best of him, here's how he gets back even, and here's how he wins in the end. Yeah. Every single movie. Different stuff inside it, but, this one, instead of being a basketball player like Michael J. Fox, he was a boxer. Everything else was the same as Teen Wolf 1.
And if I saw it, it was so unmemorable that I don't remember seeing it. And I'm trying to think if there was a worse sequel. in the 80s than Teen Wolf 2. Like, I was going in my head, I was like, is there a sequel that was going from a movie that was great and fun, like the first one, like a lot of fun, huge hit, massive box office hit, to go to the second one where it's like, whoa, what just happened?
But it didn't do anything wrong. That's the irony. The only reason Michael J. Fox didn't do it after reading the script was he'd had enough of the makeup. One of his main reasons he didn't do it was he didn't want to sit in that chair for hours on end. But I just looked, this came out in 87. It's just possible time had passed it by. There was actually a Teen Wolf 3 planned with Alyssa Milano.
Oh,
And she was supposed to be a family member. So this thing was passed on. The dad in Teen Wolf 1 was actually in this as the uncle to Jason Bateman. And he's like, it runs in our family. It could hit you next. And it did. She was supposed to be the next one as a female football player that also, same movie, but this did so bad. They're like, okay, we're done.
you see, like I said, I'm embarrassed to say it, but at that point in my life, I must have been at that goofy stage when I enjoyed the movie.
I wonder too if it was 87. So I'm just wondering, because that's right in the middle of Back to the Future and the trilogy. Yeah. And you got Michael J. Fox, who right now, that would be I don't know. I know that Harrison Ford did other stuff during the Indiana Jones trilogy because that was over 8 years. But Back to the Future was a little more condensed in terms of the trilogy. And I'm just wondering if it was he could just play off of Marty McFly. Why would you not do that for a few years until it was kind of done?
Well, and Chris, you've said the power of 1985, 86, 87. You've shown us in the past these movies that this little Teen Wolf 2 would have had to contend with. This was the era of The Breakfast Club, the era of Back to the Future. There's no way. It was too little too late. This wouldn't have stood a chance given on what Hollywood was pumping out at the time.
Yeah, just to give you an idea, I was doing a show last week, and I was focused on this past week in the 80s and stuff. And just to give you one day, June 7th, 1984, 3 movies that were released on that day: Ghostbusters, Gremlins, and Beach Street.
Oh, wow.
And you could say Beach Street doesn't really belong there, but it does because it was a pretty big box office hit. Those breakdancing movies, Beach Street, Ghostbusters, and Gremlins, all on the same day. Not same year, same month, same day. It's crazy.
Well, and I also wonder, Kevin Pierpont says, Back to the Future 2 was in 89. Okay, that came later. But Michael J. Fox was doing Secret of My Success at this point. He was doing I don't know, what was it, with Joan Jett? There was so much still going on. This movie did nothing wrong. The only thing it did wrong is it took the exact same movie that succeeded the first time and tried to push it out again. And time had already passed it by. It was too late.
Do you think, too, though, also, maybe we talk about this a lot, that the audience saw Michael J. Fox as Teen Wolf. He is Teen Wolf. So you try to replace him, and you can do that with side characters. You can do it with characters that didn't, people don't relate the actor or actress to. But once somebody says that actor or actress owns that character, it's really hard, no matter how good somebody does, to put somebody else in that character.
Without a doubt, and I think that's why they went with the Teen Wolf TOO. They're like, listen, we're not replacing Michael J. Fox. Yeah. This guy's Teen Wolf 2.
Oh, well.
Yeah. Please don't hate us. He's Teen Wolf also.
Yeah, Cindy, Doc Hollywood was great also. I love Doc Hollywood. That's an awesome one that he did in the early 90s. Yeah, I don't know. I think there were so many sequels and so many trilogies in the 80s, and I don't know. I feel like the vast majority of them were pretty good, and then it's just something really and maybe it's not a bad movie. It just bombed because.
Well, Teen Wolf was a bad movie. If you weren't 12 to 16 years old, Teen Wolf was a bad movie.
Yeah, that's what.
Michael J. Fox was horrific. There's a scene in Teen Wolf 2. Where Jason Bateman's singing all wolfed out, and he's singing like a James Brown song. It is so cringeworthily bad. I'm embarrassed for him 35 years later.
Listen, like you said, you had to be in that age frame to watch it and appreciate it, because the fur, the idea of a basketball playing fur covered werewolf, the premise was as dumb as could be. And for whatever reason, the first one worked, but the premise was still dumb. I mean, if you look at it, as bad as Teen Wolf 2 as well also is, so was Teen Wolf 1. It's just that it had a big star. It was, it hit at the right spot, and that was it.
I mean,
dude, and we can't get off of this without talking about the special effects. Chris, you talk about CGI being bad and how the back in the day effects were bad. This was bad. His eyes turning red. It's like someone just took a flash in front of his face and ripped. It was just bad. It's like they tried to move away from simply makeup worthy special effects, and they tried to incorporate technology that simply wasn't there. It was just everything about this movie. Life says, yeah, you would enjoy it if you were a little kid or really stoned.
It was like almost like, I feel like it was this in-between movie that we don't really see much anymore. So it wasn't the kids movie, like the Disney kid movie, and it was definitely not for anybody over 16. It kind of this little, like, I don't know, 10 to 13 or 14-year-old audience, and that was it. And to your point about the special effects, I mean, I think they got confused. I think they got caught in, does the werewolf scary or not? And how do we do this? Unlike like American Werewolf in London, which was a few years before Teen Wolf, and the special effects for that werewolf for the time were absolutely incredible.
Sure.
And so it was possible to do it.
That and Cat People, I remember, came out about the same time with Natasha Kinski.
Oh
and I remember loving that movie too. You know what I mean? Seen all of those too.
Aside from Disney Channel or Netflix under the family section of their streaming channel, are the big studios putting this stuff out directly to theaters still? I don't know that they are.
I just don't know if
I don't think it's worth. I don't think the niche is worth the money the movies cost.
The juice is worth the squeeze.
Basically,
yeah. I would. I mean, again, like, I think we're missing this group of movies that were really designed for that, like, preteen to early teen. It was a little hokey for a kid that's 16. Mm-hmm. It's a little much for a kid that's 7 or 8, but it's kind of that sweet spot, that 10 to 15, and we're kind of missing those movies. I mean, The Goonies is one of those movies. I love The Goonies.
Yeah, but The Goonies held up for adults too. I just rewatched that yesterday.
It did
with my daughter for like the 50th time.
18-year-olds weren't necessarily going to watch The Goonies, and neither were 6-year-olds. So
yeah, maybe
like they're missing that window of like preteen and early teen movies.
So here's the thing. So that brings us up to just about half past the hour. I'm going to give us I'm going to steal 3 minutes from Teen Wolf 2 and carry it over to Kung Fu. Now, Kung Fu was also the 70s, so I'm dealing with the 70s a lot this episode. But it was 80s and 90s as well, because you can take Kung Fu and you can talk about the David Carradine Western martial arts show, which is the intent of the topic. But you can also talk about the fact that well into the 80s, we were playing with nunchucks and Chinese throwing stars. We were beating the hell out of each other with bow staffs and pretending that we knew karate. I mean, Kung Fu martial arts was Bruce Lee. Yeah. It was a huge part of being Gen X. It went from the 70s, 80s into the 90s for sure.
Chuck Norris, Bruce Lee.
Yes.
I mean, we had my stepbrother and I used to we'd take the subway down to Baltimore City, a particular area of Baltimore City, to go to a ninja store so that we could get like throwing stars. We had blow darts. We had this bag of like spikes. So if somebody's chasing you, you throw the spikes on the ground behind you. But all of that was because of, the ninja movies like American Ninja and Jim Kata and all these like ridiculous fun movies. But Kung Fu was the one that really, between Bruce Lee, of course, and then Kung Fu really kicked that off. No pun intended.
Ha 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 ha. My kids were just talking about Jackie Chan the other day, and they're like, I love watching Jackie Chan movies because he doesn't have to have a stunt double. Like, he does his stuff, you know? They were just talking about him. You know, I'm sure they would love to go back and see some of this older stuff. They'd probably get into it too.
Bruce Leroy. Yes, Cindy. Yes.
Right.
Angela, everybody was kung fu fighting.
Yeah.
Did you watch Kung Fu on TV? Were you a fan of the show?
Me?
Yeah.
I was.
I know Shell probably didn't.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We were convinced that, I mean, like I said, between Kung Fu, the show, Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris, and the ninja movies, my stepbrother and I were convinced that we could take out an entire city on our own. We just dress in black and sneak around really quiet like a ninja and take everybody out. Convinced.
I think we were also the first generation that as kids taking karate class was a thing. My older brother wanted to do it and I got dragged along. I most definitely did not want to do it. I wanted to be left alone with my books and my nerdy life. But my father was like, no, Nikki, go, you go too. And I got the snot kicked out of me daily. But I, you know, wearing my little gi and being a complete and total dork, I bought into it at one point. I remember wearing my karate uniform to school because I thought it would make me cool. And I wish I could say it was like during Halloween, but I'm reasonably sure it was like a random Tuesday. It did not have the intended effect.
Yeah, Kung Fu was, and I mean, I don't know, like it's still the impact that it had on pop culture in general. I mean, just Quentin Tarantino. I mean, Quentin Tarantino talks about the Kung Fu series all the time and the impact that it had on him. And you look at the movies like Kill Bill and some of the other ones that he's done. And so it's one of those things that, like, you think about how, I don't know, I want to say silly the concept was, but it's really a large piece of our pop culture, and it had a huge impact on a lot of the big filmmakers today, which is really cool.
And about a month ago, you know, I did Revenge of the Nerds is one of our topics, and the Carradine family is actually very famous. I can't remember his name in Revenge of the Nerds, but the main guy, you know, the nerdy guy with the glasses. He's a Carradine.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Carradine, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the dark
Louis?
one. The dark hair one with Betty. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Wasn't that Louis?
Louis. Yes, Louis. Yes. He
I had no idea.
Yeah, he's a Carradine.
Maybe I did have an idea. Maybe that plays into the connection. I don't know.
Carradine, right? Is it Keith? What he said, or Robert? It was one of those. So I think
I see Robert and I see Keith.
Robert. I think it was Robert.
Like,
Keith Carradine was David Carradine's brother. I know he was in the Madonna video Material Girl. Okay. He was the suitor in Material Girl, the guy in the front that's like trying to get Madonna in that music video. So there's him.
Yeah, they were a famous acting family. Like, there's a whole bunch of them. The guy from Louis from the Revenge of the Nerds was actually in some of the Kung Fu shows very early on when he was a young kid.
Are you sure?
Yeah. You said I see Robert, I see David, and it reminded me of that. What the hell was that show? Where she would say, I see so and so.
Why are you not knowing that name?
Just like, oh, don't even start with me, Mr. I have never seen Fast Times at Ridgemount High.
I have, though.
Candles.
Well.
Off the room. She never called my damn name ever once. I looked for it. She never called my name. I'm still bitter about it. We don't talk about that.
16
don't speak of the dead. She paid the price.
Come on. Yeah, that was. I forgot that was Romper Room. She was looking through the
magic. The magic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. She could see.
You guys are off topic.
Sorry.
Chris, you're taking martial arts now.
Jiu-jitsu.
Did you ever take any as a kid?
I took a little jiu-jitsu when I was like 12, but honestly, I was in 3 other sports, and it was just one of those things where it was like I had to make a decision, and I just stopped doing it. My stepbrother did it for a few years after that. We did it together. I did it for about 6 months, and then it was just like, okay, I just liked the other sports that I was doing better. But now I love it. I wish I would have started it when I was younger. It's a lot of fun. It's very humbling. You get beat up, and that's okay. You get choked out, you get tapped, but hey, listen, it's all right. I mean, that's part of life. Like, it's the great Rocky monologue about,
I don't know if you're talking martial arts or your last 3 dates.
Definitely not. Your dates must have been very different than mine.
Yeah, well, it is what it is.
Oh yeah, not having dates is very humbling. How about that?
Well, believe me, that I could agree with. I'm just still going back to the fact that we always make fun of the fact that Gen X had these toys like jarts, and we played with firecrackers, and we played with BB guns, and we did all these. I literally remember being at flea markets, like outdoor flea markets, and that's where I got my ninja throwing stars. And there'd be a grown-ass adult sitting there handing it to me, and he's like, these are very sharp, and he had like a piece of wood, and he'd throw it, and it stuck in there, and he was verifying to me how lethal these things were in order to take my money.
Here you go, kid.
And he probably called them shuriken, because that's like the name. Shuriken is throwing stars, yeah. So he tried to be really proper with it. Yeah.
In the comments, people are talking about, we not only made ashtrays in grade school for presents for our parents, people made nunchucks in wood shop.
Yeah,
they made weapons in wood shop.
I did. I made it out of a broomstick with a tennis shoelace and nails. And I had my own nunchucks to use at home and hit myself in the head and the balls with. Like, that was pretty much what happened.
I like John's comment there that the Asian immersion from the 70s and 80s, me being the nerdy NASA girl, that we actually saw a lot of that too in the 60s heading into the 70s. That's where our Star Treks and our Star Wars and, Lost in Space and all that stuff, and even toys were heavily influenced by what was going on in the world at the time. So I can see that, I never really thought about the connection with the Vietnam War, but that makes a lot of sense.
Life on Wheels is letting you know he's single as well, Chris. I don't think that's an offer. I think it's simply knowledgeable information.
Then we have that in common. All right, that's good.
I mean, I've got nunchucks sitting right here. That's what these are behind me. They're always right there.
I think you should use them sometime on the show.
Dude, I remember the amount of times I've slammed myself in the head with nunchucks. I can do the figure 8. I can do the underneath the arm and stuff, but I have whacked myself so many times. The throwing stars, I don't know what happened. I did have those. It blows my mind. No one was concerned for our safety. And shows like Kung Fu played, I remember watching it maybe in syndication during the day. And they were beating the hell out of each other. They just basically taught us to beat up on each other.
And the special effects are great.
Oh, always.
Yeah.
And then it just reminds me of the whole Bruce Lee where badly dubbed.
Oh, single ladies in Dundalk. Kevin, jeez. That's an inside Maryland joke, by the way. Baltimore.
I missed that one.
Where I grew up. Where I grew up in Baltimore, Dundalk is just that's an interesting place. Played a lot of baseball there, but it's an interesting place. Yeah.
So I've talked about Kung Fu before during my videos and stuff, and a lot of people, unless you're older Gen X, some of them didn't see it. But like I always say, would there be a Chuck Norris if there wasn't a Kung Fu? Like I see a direct correlation that this was like the first time a lot of us saw this stuff. It was like an introduction, and it was like a Western. Take two things that you don't think belong together. This was a Kung Fu martial arts Western. So we've talked about the fact that it's martial arts, but this was also, it was basically a precursor to, Medicine Woman, whatever her name was, Quinn Medicine Woman.
Oh my God.
We don't have either of those things anymore. Karate Kid movies coming back, but when's the last time you saw a Western?
Dances with Wolves.
No, come on. That's the last one you saw?
I'm trying to think.
Can't think of one.
When did Dances with Wolves come out? 93?
I mean, I consider that more, then there's the, Tombstone. Yeah, those.
But even Tombstone was 30, 40 years ago now?
Yeah.
94. Yeah. 1999. No,
That's
you're right. I mean,
crazy to me.
there's been
Is it too much time? I mean, when the 70s were 50 years ago, are Westerns just too far removed from current time to be relevant at all? Is it something kids who can't really fathom a rotary phone connected to a wall, is a Western just way too much of a stretch to make any sense now?
I don't think so. I honestly think they're big productions. And I don't think that you can do a true Western in a studio with CGI. You have to get out somewhere in space.
Yes.
And to do a Western, they're big, big productions. And so, I don't know, maybe it's a risk, it's a gamble to do it. But, man, when they're done well, they are the best.
I mean, we grew up with it. I remember seeing Shane as our monthly movie in elementary school. It was Lone Ranger. I remember watching the black and whites of Lone Ranger.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the guns are problematic?
No.
Is it the Cowboys versus Indians thing is problematic? I just, to have it completely disappear like that blows my mind.
I think it's going to come back, though, and here's why.
Yeah.
Because I love a good period drama. I love watching something that is based on the 1600s, the 1700s, a reenactment of those times, the costuming, the different things. I don't think sometimes it's removed far enough. It's not in recent memory enough for it to be valuable right now for most people, because maybe in the 70s there were older people that might have remembered more of those times.
That's crazy.
But it's not far enough removed now for it to be fascinating. Like, I'd be fascinated with watching something of a period drama from the early 1800s because it's so far removed from anything like today. And I think in about another 30 years, we're going to see Westerns come back because...
Well, we won't.
Well, but a couple people mentioned the remake of True Grit that came out about 10 to 12 years ago was really well done. 310 to Yuma, which was a remake as well, was really well done. And I do believe they just announced the new Young Guns with the same.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. Emilio Estevez put something up about it the other day, and that's going to be fun. I don't know. Maybe Shell's right that because of shows like Yellowstone, that there's an appetite for this kind of thing. But like I said, you have to have people who are willing to go all in, because you can't CGI a Western. I stop with the CGI crap.
Yeah.
You cannot CGI a Western. You can CGI an apocalyptic world because it doesn't exist, but you cannot CGI a Western, and that's going to be the problem.
I love
Tony and others.
That's such a good point.
Tony and Vista Light bring up like Big Valley and Bonanza. And I forgot that these were mainstays on TV. And Shelley, you blew my mind with your comment that part of it was that there were people walking the earth that might have been old enough to remember the outline. And that blows my mind. Because that meant that the old people when we were young lived during the cowboy days. So in 30 years, when this fad comes back, we're going to be basically the people that they talked about living in the 1900s. All right.
They already refer to what we were doing as the 1900s. They're like, oh, back in the 1900s. Like, excuse me.
Yeah.
So
I almost wore my shirt today that said, excuse, had the dysentery on it, and
yes.
Forgive me for what I did. I was born in the 1900s. I almost wore that today. It's funny we mention it.
Quick and the Dead.
Young Guns.
So, very cool. Well, today's topics
chicken
were Amityville Horror, Teen Wolf 2, and Kung Fu. Anything left unsaid about any of those as a last call before we move to a type of a reveal?
No, now I just got Young Guns quotes in my head.
Yeah.
We're in the spirit world. They can't see us.
So what do people think? Oh, High Chaparral. My mom loved High Chaparral. What do people think could possibly connect Amityville Horror, Teen Wolf 2, and Kung Fu?
I mean, let's see what everybody says first. I wouldn't consider buying a cassette or DVD from you. What?
Oh, I wouldn't consider buying anything from me. I don't know what that meant. I stole plenty from Columbia House.
He put it down later in the comments. He meant would. I would consider.
Da, na, 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 na. Yep, this one's tough. This one's tough. And again, shout out to Kristen Rhodes. She emailed me. The reveal is hers. The topics I tweaked. Brian says all three have remakes. Teen Wolf 2 remake was just announced earlier this year. Teen Wolf 2 was the remake. I didn't know if there was a Kung Fu remake. And Amityville had a bunch. So, sort of, but that's not the one. I mean, I can see where you're going. Not the connection I'm going for today.
When you mentioned Gomez, and I was thinking of his son, Sean Astin, and then I was thinking of his mother, who, if I want, and I can't think of her name at the moment.
Patty Duke.
Betty Duke.
Patty Duke.
I went to. You were mentioning. And for some reason, I went to the Betty Duke show, and like my brain was going that way. That was one of the directions that I was going with it, but I couldn't make anything of that. And then I was thinking Hitchcock and the Birds, and who was the lady in that? Like I kept going in places around in my mind.
Kevin says Meredith Baxter Burney. I'd love to see your reasoning there. I will say no.
That's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah, I think it's just Meredith Baxter now. She got divorced from Bernie. Because she discovered herself.
Is she still alive?
Patty Duke Astin. Yes, that's John Astin's. Was that John Astin's wife?
No, that's his mother.
Oh,
that's his mother.
So would that make it John Astin's? I'm so confused. Anyway, no, that's not it.
Mother, and that's where I was. I was going somewhere with that, but I can't make the connection.
Gotcha. It was a good place to go. How about Robert Carradine and Revenge of the Nerds? That has nothing to do with anything.
Okay, yeah, I knew when you went like this that it had nothing.
Chris?
I got nothing.
Got nothing.
No, I got nothing.
This is kind of cool. This one's cool. I got to give it to Kristen. This one is timely and it's very cool. So this Sunday is
Father's Day.
Father's Day. And this week marked the 40th anniversary of a release of a specific movie.
The Goonies.
The Goonies. Sean Astin. His adopted stepdad is John Astin. So John Astin is the father of Mikey from the Goonies. Keith Carradine is the father of Martha Plimpton from the Goonies. Oh. And James Brolin from Amityville Horrors is the father of Josh Brolin, Brandon from the Goonies. So each of these topics contains the father of a member of the Goonies.
It's awesome.
So it ties in together this week's Father's Day. So a little bit of a Father's Day gift to everybody. And it also ties in the 40th anniversary of the Goonies movie. So the topic, every single topic featured a father of a member of the Goonies cast. And that's our connection.
John, that is awesome. I like it. I got Sean. I knew there was something with it. Yep. I just couldn't I couldn't put it all together. I just couldn't.
Yeah, Carradine to Martha Plimpton would have been tough. I had no idea. Now, Keith Carradine played the young David Carradine in Kung Fu. So he was in Kung Fu. He played the younger version of him.
You know, and I did know that from doing my research on Revenge of the Nerds. I actually knew that Martha Plimpton was a Carradine. I did know that. It just didn't come to the forefront of my brain. So it did have something to do with that. I'm giving myself a third of a point. I'm just
and I'm taking it away.
I'm taking it.
I said the Goonies.
I'm taking it.
On. I
mean, the Goonies poster's behind me. I wore the shirt again. If you watch videos, I've been wearing this shirt all week as I've been making Goonies content. I wear it, I take it off, my wife washes it, I put it back on. It's just a cool little. First of all, happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. I wanted to do something on this episode to kind of give a shout out to those of us that are dads, to those of us that still have our dads, and to those of us that are missing our dads this Father's Day weekend, because that is absolutely a thing. Joey mentions Marcus Welby, MD. When Kristen suggested this, the topics would have been Marcus Welby, MD, Madonna's Material Girl, and I don't remember what the tie-in was for. And Addams Family. So she said, do Addams Family, Marcus Welby, MD, and Madonna's Material Girl the music video, it would have came to the same place. Because James Brolin was in Marcus Welby, MD, which I've never seen.
Me neither.
Keith Carradine was in the Madonna video that I didn't think I could talk about for 15 minutes. And I was more of a Munsters guy than I was an Addams Family guy.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, can you do a top 5 movies of the 80s without the Goonies?
No.
And even now, I just got interviewed for an article in Newsweek magazine that just got picked up by a couple of other publications about Generation Goonie and how the people from Gen X, there's a lot of people starting to call themselves Generation Goonie, and the whole reason.
Yeah, it's the Zennials, though, and that's getting on my nerves. They don't get to take it from us.
No, that's not what the article was about.
Okay, because I know a lot of Zennials are saying they're renaming themselves Generation Goonie.
They can try, but no, this was about Gen X also being Generation Goonie. Yeah, had nothing to do with those guys at all. Otherwise, they wouldn't have interviewed me. They'd be like, no.
It holds up. And I just did a video on the Goonies, and I said that the Goonies was more than just a Gen X movie. It was a full-blown diagnosis. Here were a bunch of latchkey kids from beginning to end left to their own devices, right? Mm-hmm. They come across this amazing thing which is filled with danger and criminal, and they don't think for a second to get an adult involved. They encounter this huge problem. They've got a friend who is like MacGyver before MacGyver in data, coming up and everything about them screams Gen X. And then in the end, they solve the problem and get none of the credit. They get rid of the developers. They find the treasure. They don't get to keep the treasure. They don't get to retire. They're going to have to keep working. And they get no credit. I'm like, it is Gen X from beginning to end.
I love it. It was a great connection.
And I'm so glad they didn't do a sequel. Like, I'm so glad that they just, and I know there's been a lot of rumors now, but I'm just saying they didn't do, Goonies 2 3 years later. Like, they just let it be. And it is kind of a quintessential 80s movie. And those are the types of movies, again, that we just don't see as much anymore. These adventure movies, because, I don't know. I don't have kids. So maybe you guys can tell me. Are kids adventuring like we did? Because that was kind of the thing about the Goonies, is that you could relate not to the whole like criminal family chasing you and the pirate ship, but just the idea of an adventure over the course of a day. Riding your butts
could happen
by the woods, and who knows what happens.
Plus, we're the last generation that would have been able to read a map. So today, if the kids find it, they wouldn't be going anywhere. They'd be like, GPS doesn't know where the ship is. We're out of luck.
I'm going home to do shit. I'm going home to play my games.
It was an unbelievable concept when we watched it, but it was, if not possible, it was probable. We could imagine with no parts of this were like, yeah, it wasn't that much of a stretch. Today, the parents that have been looking on Life 360, and they're like, what the hell are these kids doing there? They'd be looking at Power School, and they're like, these kids, they're not, it's not even remotely possible right now. The only way Disney movies still have kids having adventures is they have to kill the parents off. Mufasa has to fall off a cliff before the Lion King can have his fun. These parents, the mom was still alive and well. She was not paying attention.
Yeah.
Today, she'd have been brought up on charges.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that the other day, as far as like kids getting into movies that were, say, R-rated. We did that when we were kids. You could get into a movie fairly easily if it was R-rated or whatever. And now it's just like no way whatsoever. Like, you're not getting in. And I don't know, there's times when I think we don't give our kids that little bit of risk enough, so they feel a little naughty, a little bad, like I took a little risk, and they take their chances and they learn things from it. That adventurous spirit, I don't know. Is it gone? I don't know. I can't answer that.
And I had one of the great scenes too.
And litigated out of us.
I had one of the great scenes too with Chunk, and when they're interrogating him, and he's admitting all the stuff he did, and when they made it in the theater with the fake puke, and then
G, the OG, brings up the joke of One-Eyed Willie. That went over my head as a kid. Yeah. I didn't make the connection. That's hilarious. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, I can't even think of current iconic names. Think of who was involved in this movie. Between screenplay, directing, and production, you had Richard Donner, you have Chris Columbus, and you have Steven Spielberg.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's magic. That's storytelling right there.
Yeah, Robert, I saw the Cubs lost. It's all right. We still got a little bit of a lead. Believe me, they're going to go into a slump any day now. I'm not wearing my Cubs hat yet because the last time I wore it, they started losing. So I'll put it back on later. I don't know. I really, really, really was excited to make the reveal be sort of Cubs. And the fact that it could be Father's Day and Cubs. I mean, I lost my dad 6 years ago now. Chris, you lost your dad.
No, I still have my dad. I
You lost your mom. I'm sorry.
Mom and my stepmom, all
Yep.
like in 3 months, same time. Yeah.
And Shelley, you have a grandmother still kicking around doing things.
I do. I have both of my parents. My husband has both of his parents, and I still have a grandmother.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And on that note, Sunday is also something else, John.
Is
Happy birthday.
it your birthday?
You know better. Yes, it is. You knew that. It's my birthday.
And you will finally be
40.
40.
Yeah, no. 52. 52.
I just saw a movie with my kids. Speaking of 52, Cameron Diaz is 52. Jamie Foxx is 57. I watched with my younger kid. They've got like the CIA type spy movie going out right now. And there's a scene where some kids in a club refer to them as boomers. They kick their ass and they say, we're not boomers. We're Generation X, basically. And I thought that was totally cool.
That's
that
awesome.
even in their 50s, they can be badass. They can be tough. It just doesn't matter. Very cool. Well, listen, guys. Vilify says soon we'll be the geezers. I don't buy it.
Never.
A lot of birthday wishes coming out to you, Shell. 40 again, 40 plus. All good. So who's it next week?
It's me.
Chris.
Yeah.
So join us again next week then, I guess. 9 p.m. Eastern time on Monday night. Chris Clues has the helm, so I guess do your brush up on your movie soundtracks and music. Odds are somewhere in there, possibly. That's his shtick.
Yeah, there'll be a music or movies. I mean, music or soundtrack or Tom Petty.
Well, and Goonies, I mean, Cyndi Lauper can't end this without mentioning it even had an amazing soundtrack.
Yes.
I mean, Steven Spielberg asked Cyndi Lauper to be the musical director for the Goonies. And the Goonies are good enough. I mean, come on. Like, that's just one of those songs, whenever it comes on, you're just, it's hard to turn it off. Like, you just start singing it. And you're all of a sudden, for me, I'm like back as a kid in the movie theater watching the Goonies. It does that to me.
Yeah.
That song.
Agreed.
This was an amazing topic, and happy Father's Day to you. And yes, and to everybody out there, like John said, whose fathers, a father will always be a father, whether with us or not, will always be. And it's still a happy Father's Day, no matter what.
Love you guys. Talk to you soon. I'm out.
Later. Stay rad.
Why didn't it do it?
Woohoo!
There it goes. I finally got it. Peace.